Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 2021 Career Mode here on the channel. Here today we have the British GP coming your way here in this final season of our F1 Career Mode, fresh off of our home GP in Canada there in Montreal. Didn't go exactly how we were, of course, hoping it would, but we are nonetheless ready to get this final half of the season underway here in Britain, where Max Verstappen comes into today's episode with a 3-point lead over his teammate of Lando Norris. Sebastian Vettel up there in the mix as well, but Norris coming fresh off of a race victory for the first time in his career in Canada, I believe, here throughout this career mode at least here. Now, as like we said, it hasn't been the best season for us here. We made the mistake of going to Mercedes from McLaren, and I can't tell you how much I regret making that decision at this point here now, but obviously we can't change anything. We get underway here in this free practice one session. Silverstone being one of my worst circuits here in F1 2021. I had really no confidence coming into this GP whatsoever here, so I didn't put in slow lap times. My lap times were respectable here in practice and in qualifying and whatnot, but the AI is so difficult when it comes to Silverstone, and especially when they can go through cups full throttle. The AI can when you really can't, without going a little bit wide and getting a corner cutting. But they're still, even if you go full throttle compared to them, they still find multiple tenths on you per lap. It's baffling here. So this is basically just a track where it's just so hard to beat the AI because of their flaws, that is basically having a completely unfair advantage over everybody. So I knew this was going to be a tough GP. I understood the assignment, at least here. I knew I wasn't going to have the best weekend here in Silverstone, but there is going to be some weather in this race. It is supposed to rain pretty early, I think, more closer to the midway point actually of this GP here now. But we come through into qualifying here, just trying to put in a decent lap in. My first lap here in Q1 was good enough to make it into Q2. We went P11, so I was pretty happy with that. We would end up P12 there in the actual session. As you can see, Esteban Ocon leads the group of 5 that would get eliminated there in Q1 in the Alpine. But we come through now into Q2 here on my first attempt at a lap here, and I crossed the line and go a little bit better, P10. But would that be enough? I didn't know. So I made another lap here, trying to find just a little bit extra pace to make sure I can kind of guarantee myself in Q2. You see some drivers that were trying to get into Q3, sorry, on the medium compound tire, but it didn't matter because it was looking like it was going to rain early on enough to where it didn't really matter what tire compound you started on, so I had no problem staying on the soft anyways. But we were very close to the same time that we put up here on lap 1, but unfortunately it just wasn't going to be enough here, as we're going to come through this final turn about half a tenth of a second slower here. But fortunately, to my surprise, it still would be enough to get us through into Q3. So for the back-to-back GPs, we are in Q3, and here we come through now into our attempt in Q3. And based off of the way Q1 and Q2 went, I was expecting to qualify 10th place, kind of like what we did in the last episode. So I really didn't have my hopes high for this one here. Now as we come through this sweeping right-hand carousel, now trying to get the best exit possible, get that power down there, and the overall lap felt pretty respectable. But like I said, I was expecting P10 with the whole AI situation here in my Silverstone performance, and sure enough, that's exactly what it would be. And I tried making a second lap, it just wasn't enough. So we qualify P10 here in Silverstone. Max Verstappen beats out Pierre Gasly, as well as his teammate of Lando Norris there for the pole position, as we're going to head to the grid and get ready to go lights out here in Britain.
Great Britain then, one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every single year of the Formula One World Championship. And the circuit extends that record further for today's Grand Prix. The 3.6 miles of the Silverstone circuit in Great Britain is hallowed ground to the Formula One faithful. We have 18 corners that wrap around this former World War II airbase, and some good passing opportunities at the end of the DRS zones. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, it's looking a bit cold out there, if I'm honest. These tyres have quite a narrow operating window in terms of the temperatures they need to extract the best grip. So with a cold track surface, it's going to be harder to keep those temperatures up, which will lead to lower grip and maybe more mistakes.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position, with Pierre Gasly alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Norris, Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas and Vettel, Ricciardo, Stroll, Giovinazzi and the Golden Boy, Leclerc, Sainz, George Russell and Lundgaard, Matsushita, Ocon, Mick Schumacher and Nicholas Latifi, Joe and Callum Islet. And now it's time to head down to the track.
We are ready to go lights out here now as we get ready to start in this 10th starting position here as we are lights out and underway for the formation lap here. But like I said, weather was on the way. We would have to pay attention to that here. And actually, at the end of the lap, throughout the lap, it started sprinkling and then it actually stopped, which was weird. So I was expecting it to kick off at any point in time here. But we get ready though to go. 5 red lights. Max Verstappen leads the way as it's lights out and we are underway. Max Verstappen trying to continue his championship lead. What a drive he had in Canada, starting down deep in the field, rebounded to a podium, gets off well there in front of the AlphaTauris as well as his teammate Lando Norris here. Now as myself had a decent start, wasn't a great start by any means here. I was definitely under attack from some drivers here, as you can see myself right now trying to go around the outside of the Ferrari, so you can see there was a little bit of ground lost right there as we're side by side with, I believe that was Charles Leclerc in that number 16 here. Now as we're going to get ahead of him, the BMW is a Stroll as well as Giovinazzi. They're going to go wheel to wheel, side by side, bringing me a little bit closer into the mix as well here. Giovinazzi though settles in behind Lando Norris. Leclerc just in front of Carlos Sainz as you look through out the bottom part of the grid here. But overall a clean start for everybody here in Silverstone, including up at the front there with Max Verstappen, who's already trying to put it on cruise control and run away from former teammate Pierre Gasly there. As you can see right now, that AlphaTauri is so strong this season here with Gasly and Tsunoda behind the wheel. There you see Bottas right there just in front of a McLaren, and myself kind of settling into the zone now here. But I knew what the situation was. Like I said, Britain with the AI advantages, I was expecting to honestly lose connection with the cars in front and basically just be kind of in a defense mode throughout the whole GP here, which is not the situation anybody wants to be in here, but it was a situation I was expecting to be in here as Verstappen comes through to complete that first and opening lap. And sure enough, I would end up unfortunately being right. It was exactly what I expected it to be. I lose connection with the cars in front of Giovinazzi as well as Lance Stroll. And you can already see though, rain is coming down on the track. So here comes the rain. The track is going to deteriorate throughout the next probably 5 to 10 laps here. And now it's just about, can we stay out long enough here on the soft compound tire to make it to a point where we can switch over to the intermediate or the wet compound tire, depending on, of course, how significant the rain is now, as I didn't quite know how bad it was going to get here. It did show one little time slot of heavy rain in the race strategy, but the rest was all just light rain, so I didn't really know what to expect. But the conditions were sitting pretty quick here, and you can see I was almost 3 seconds now behind the BMWs of Giovinazzi and Lance Stroll, and it would just continue to get worse here. Now actually there was a yellow flag though up in front of us here at the conclusion of lap 8. It's going to be for Lance Stroll there in the BMW. He's had a failure there, an engine failure, just like his teammate Giovinazzi had in Canada, and once again he's in the middle of the track. What are we doing with these BMWs in the middle of the track with these engine failures there? And there's our first retirement of the day. No yellow flags, or no virtual or safety car I should say. Obviously yellow flags were out, but at the conclusion of lap 9, look at the conditions on the track. You can see how much worse they are getting. So of course it was time to come in for a pit stop here on the intermediate compound tire, and as expected, like I said, just don't have the pace here in Silverstone as usual. That's been the story throughout this whole career mode, never having pace when it comes to Silverstone. This is a trend for myself even back before I was doing career modes on the channel with F1, is I've never had pace when it comes to Silverstone. I don't know what it is, but I need to try and figure it out at some point here. But we come in, put the intermediate compound tire on a little bit slower because we did do the double stack, and Bottas had just exited there before we got into our pit box, but it wasn't really enough to hurt our progress there. It was still a 3-second stop, so we're going to exit here briefly in P number 11, but there is some cars that still have to come into the pit lane here at the conclusion of this lap, so we'll have to wait and see where things cycle out now. As you see, DRS does for sure, exactly as we expected, get disabled here, and now it's just going to be, what can we do? Can we keep the car on the track here on the intermediate compound tires here in the wet? Obviously my first time here in Britain without the racing line, completely forgot it was going to rain, so I didn't have any practice in wet conditions here without the racing line, but actually was holding my own, and we were up now to P9 after everything cycled through, and we were actually starting to pull away a little bit here from George Russell behind myself. But look at this, you see on lap 14 the rain is really coming down now. We had transitioned into this heavy rain period period, and I decided to throw a bit of a curveball. So I was expecting to see some drivers do exactly that. You see Bottas comes in, he's going to put on the wet compound tire, and pretty much everybody's going to come in to put on the wet compound tire. I'm trying to find as many points as I can, and I said, you know what, the wet or the heavy rain conditions are not supposed to last long. I'm going to stay out, bear through it, and see if we can gain maybe 1 to 2 extra spots out of it. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it could make a difference here. So I decided we're just going to tough it out. You can see Vettel in front of us right there on the wet compound tire. Actually, he was the first one to get out on the wet compound tires, and he would actually take the lead over Lando Norris. Verstappen was all the way down to 5th place because he pitted so late. So now here we are in P3, staying out, the only one that stayed out for the intermediate compound tire. And at this point, our strategy, we have committed to it here. Now, as you can see, Pierre Gasly is going to get by myself there, and then I would actually let Verstappen go because there's a completely different race for him going on, a championship race. So I let Verstappen go after Gasly went through, and then I actually let Ricciardo go on the front straightaway. So it dropped down to P6, but still running better than what we were previously. Now Bottas was the next one behind us, and he would close in on us pretty quick, but we're just hoping at this point that the heavy rain lets up and transitions back into light rain here, so that way maybe the conditions will favor me, and hopefully they'll have to pit for intermediate compound tires. Well, I can say you saw a bit of a mistake right there. Bottas is right there. I just let him go. Said have the position Valtteri. So we jumped down into P7. The next car behind us was Carlos Sainz. He was actually a lap down. Had some form of issues. Not sure exactly what it was there, but I'm assuming some form of wing damage or something here now as we continue in P7. And as we came through to lap 20, you can see the rain is still coming down quite heavy, but it's definitely starting to let up just a little bit, and that would be the trend here throughout the rest of this GP. And this is a lot like the Canadian GP, other than some weather thrown in. Really, nothing has happened here in Canada. The only interesting thing is the rain creating some strategy differences here, because other than that, this has been a very lackluster Grand Prix so far here in Britain. We come through to the final few laps, and now the tires were favorable towards the intermediates. Again, the wet tires were still able to put up a competitive pace, but you saw Bottas, he was able to pull away at about 3-4 seconds, and then once we got to this point, he really wasn't driving away much more. But obviously, I knew I wasn't going to be able to close in 4.5 seconds nearly. I did close it down to 3.9, actually driving the grass on the front straightaway as we came through to start the final lap, and at this point I just put it on cruise control. I said, let's just bring it home. We obviously can't get to Valtteri, but we made a strategy call and we gained 2 extra spots out of it. We were P9 at the time of deciding to stay out on the intermediates instead of go to the wets, and now we're going to be P7 by pulling the strategy call, and Giovinazzi and Tsunoda had nothing for us here at this point because the intermediates, of course, were the favorable tire. But Sebastian Vettel would come through to win the British GP by just simply pitting at the right time compared to his rivals of Lando Norris and Max Verstappen as well. And we're going to get a respectable 7th place finish out of it here. We just got to bring it home at this point. Bottas cruising through the final couple of corners. It's going to be a 6th place finish for Valtteri. But like I said, with the strategy call, it worked out for us. P7, a gain of 2 spots. With that strategy, I will take it. P7 here in Silverstone for the British GP. Still some work to do. Our car says we're second in the R&D, but myself and Bottas running so close together in terms of positions, proving that maybe we still need some work to do in this car. Sebastian Vettel wins and as well gets driver of the day. Let's head to the podium.
Plenty of action here at Silverstone. It was a memorable race, and what an impressive victory. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
Well, keeping their tyre temperatures up in the tricky wet conditions was really important. There's not much grip out there at the best of times, and it's 10 times worse if you're out there on cold tyres. So the way they kept the rubber in its proper operating window was a huge advantage today.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure, and no doubt they'll be celebrating tonight.
Not quite meant to be, of course, in terms of getting a podium or something for Mercedes BWT here today, but hopefully we can keep getting closer, and I'm excited for the next episode actually in Spa to see what we'll bring there. That's a track I've always enjoyed racing at in this career mode, although I've had my ups and downs there as well. But you see Lando Norris now takes over the championship lead, 2 points over Verstappen, 9 points over Vettel, so it's looking like it's going to be a 3-driver race, kind of like last season for the championship. Last season, though, it was myself and my teammate of Daniel Ricciardo Ricciardo and Lando Norris in that mix as well, and obviously we know Ricciardo came out on top of that there. But you can see we've also pretty much, upgraded this car to its full capacity, so we can't go any further with this Mercedes, which is a bit of an issue here in these closing races of the season. But I mean, that's gonna wrap it up for us. In the next episode, we head to Spa, where I hear it might be raining there for the whole race as well, but really raining, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But our second 7th place finish of the season. We still got some work to do. 4 GPs remain in the season. I want to thank you all for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button. That would help so much, and you guys know what to do. Hit that subscribe button as well. I would appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, everybody.